Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're taking a look at the Blood Death Knight changes on the Battle for Azeroth beta. Now there was a build Monday, it got reverted because of some bugs, came out again Tuesday. It's a slightly different number. I don't know if anything actually changed. The Wowhead stuff that we're going to be talking about today is in the description as always, but it is from Monday's build. I don't think anything would have changed into Tuesday's build, but either way, there's effectively only two changes, and one of them I don't really know much about. So we're going to start with the stuff about Bone Shield here. Let me read this. The thing that confuses me is the mathematics behind it, so I'm going to explain why. So Merorend, the stuff that says on a Wowhead, it says it used to increase our armor by 40% of our strength. Don't forget, it used to be 60% of our strength. Been covering that over the last few months here, but now it says 40 times strength divided by 100. And people are saying that this is a nerf, and you know, I wouldn't have even known about this if people didn't tell me about this, because I don't really understand what the mathematics there mean. Like, I guess I could try to do the math myself, but I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, so I'd like to hear from you guys. People are a little bit more interested, or perhaps more educated on the topic, about why this is a nerf. From my perspective, this still seems fine. I have almost 1,500 armor currently, and that's at, what am I at, 318 now? Yeah, 318 item level, 1,500 armor, you know, and that's on top of 3,500 armor. So, you know, like probably like a 40% increase. It's not bad at all. It still seems appropriate to me, especially for something that's meant to be passive. So I don't know. I don't really know why this is a big deal, but if you guys think it's a big deal, you'll have to explain specifically why, how big of a nerf it has been, if it is a nerf at all, or if people are just confused or perhaps overreacting. I don't really know. Anyway, so the other change, the thing that I definitely want to talk about today, is the mobility changes. Okay, so the big WTF moment that everybody's probably seen now is Wraithwalk is no longer a baseline ability. It's now effectively a talent, but it's not that cut and dry. Let's talk about exactly what's happened here. So previously, this talent slot used to be held by an ability that would buff Wraithwalk. The baseline Wraithwalk was very short. I guess it was probably only 2 seconds. I can't actually remember, but anyway, it was a very short ability, and it only removed the roots. So now, so previously anyway, the talent would double the duration, I guess. It would make it longer. I never really paid much attention. It would make it longer, but it would also remove stuns. And this I found very useful for a lot of Mythic Plus, a lot of situations. And of course, the extra speed was always something that Death Knight lacked. So yeah, to have that removed at face value seems like a huge nerf, okay? And I can understand why people think it is. But the big change here is that March of the Damned, a spell that we got returned to us, this expansion, used to be in the game. It was the only movement speed that Blood Death Knight had in WoD, plus the Unholy Presence. You would have to use these two pretty well to be able to have any type of movement. And now it is back to being a 30% speed boost, okay? So that's really good. For 8 seconds, your movement speed is increased by 30%. You cannot be slowed below 100% of normal speed, and you're immune to forced movement effects. And don't forget, the passive is actually pretty important too. You cannot be slowed below 70% of normal speed. Now, I don't know if you're ever going to get slowed that bad in PvE or raiding or Mythic Plus or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how important that is. But regardless, that's a pretty good concession here. And I'm going to tell you why. Because now you have that baseline, which is, you know, 30%. It's not the best, but it's not bad, especially for a spec like Blood Death Knight. And what this does here for the talent situation is makes a lot more competition between the 60 row. So the way I see it, Grip of the Dead is still extremely strong. Obviously, it's been buffed even from the Legion version, and the Legion version was something that a lot of people got efficacy out of. Well, it's kind of been retuned, really. Of course, it lost the Tightening Grasp element, which is now its separate talent altogether. That one is pretty underwhelming at this point now, with these two other talents on this row. But regardless, a 90% speed, decaying over 10, well, however many seconds, decaying by 10% over a few seconds. It's still going to be a nerf for the first, or a buff for the first few seconds of this talent. So if you ever need to kite, you know, like we did a lot in Mythic Plus dungeons, you are definitely going to have some benefit from this. And, you know, you won't lose Wraithwalk entirely, like you'll obviously miss it, but you could still use March of the Damned to get a little bit of distance on things. And I think that's pretty good. But then for every other situation, so basically you know, Grip of the Dead for Mythic Plus, and then Wraithwalk for raids. And for me, mobility, the biggest problem with mobility comes in raids. I've always found that to be the problem, especially, you know, this expansion I've co-tanked with the Brewmaster and now a Vengeance Demon Hunter, and they can get, they can do it, you know what I mean? They can get far real quick. So I'm kind of back there sitting around waiting. But now that we effectively have 2 speed boosts in raids, or basically any situation where we don't need Grip of the Dead, frankly, I'm probably not going to use Grip of the Dead anymore until I know I need to kite, which will definitely happen in Mythic Plus, and, you know, to varying degrees, depending on if that same, you know, interaction is going to happen in next, you know, with the Mythic Plus situation like it did in Legion. We'll see about that. But anyway, if I don't ever need to kite, then now we have 2 speed boosts. And that's pretty nice. It's some nice coverage. I mean, Wraithwalk is obviously a pretty good speed thing. The biggest lament I have here is that we lose the stun element of it. Removing stuns, that was one of the nicest things about Wraithwalk. There's some fights that, you know, put out a lot of types of stuns, or even mechanics that could stun you if you made a mistake. Comes to mind the boss in Court of Stars, especially when soloing. It was actually really nice to have the Wraithwalk stun thing, because I can just run around, break the stuns, and then Wraithwalk out of them. I could AMS them, and I could Icebound Fortitude. I had multiple ways to clear them. Now we have one less way. So anyway, from what I could tell, that's pretty much everything. There is one other thing I wanted to bring up. We have now, I got some gear from Mythic Dungeons, and it actually has Azeroth stuff on it, but I can't actually select it. So I don't know if anybody knows anything about that, let me know. But it's actually some new stuff. It's pretty cool. Secrets of the Deep. Your spells and abilities have a chance to create a surging droplet nearby. Collecting it increases your primary stat by that much. Rarely, a void droplet will be created, increasing your... I would like to see what this looks like, honestly. But, you know, regardless, I would like to see how often this procs, because that sounds pretty good. That sounds like one I can get behind. And then some new, later down, when stunned, immobilized, or knocked back, oops, you heal for that much. And Bulwark of the Masses. This is going to be really good for 5-mans, obviously. When you're surrounded by 4 or more enemies, gain a shield. That's a lot. That's going to add up. So yeah, that's a pretty good one, and it's on both of these. So if I can take, yeah, that would. And don't forget they stack now, right? Which is one of the coolest things. This is another new one, Blight born Infusion. Your spells and abilities have a chance to draw a wandering soul from Thros. I don't know what that is. The soul grants you some of its power, increases your crit by 14%. So hey, you know, they're pretty passive, but it's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this stuff. But otherwise, you know, this was, if I could test this, I would love to. So I don't know if anybody knows of a way to allow me to select these items, you know, these augments. I can't actually do it, so I'm not sure. But anyway, that's everything. If you have any questions, let me know. If you know anything about Mirrorend, like I said, somebody contacted me and they're like, man, what do you think about this massive nerf to Blood Death Knights, basically? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? I don't know. So I'm not sure. Anyway, let me know. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.